Virginia.
Okay. You swear or affirm that the statements and information you shall give in this hearing with respect to your identity and qualification to be registered and to vote shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. And Chairwoman and members of the board, Ms. Thomas is not objecting struck from the voter registration rolls.
Okay. Mr. Gilbert, anything? I mean, it's basically, she's agreed to be struck, so I think that probably ends this one.
So I have questions.
Okay.
I have some questions. Were you a resident on campus in the housing in the last election when you voted?
No, sir.
So why would, so I'm trying to figure this out. First thing I'd like to ask the board that Ms. Thomas's testimony stays within the board. We don't forward it to anybody. Nobody, Ms. Thomas needs to understand there's not going to be any repercussions for telling the truth. Because there's 59 other people that didn't show up today, and she put her big girl pants on and came here today. So I'd like some reassurance from y'all that there will be no repercussions for her for giving truthful testimony.
Mr. Cox, can you advise us on that?
Well, Mr. Gilbert is asking you please not refer this to the district attorney's office. And you know, I don't know if her attorney wants her to talk too much about this, and I understand your concern and why you want to ask questions. She's basically consented and agreed to be removed from the voter roll.
So my perspective with that is, Mr. Cox, she stood before an elections official, signed her name affirming that 1704 Weeksville Road was her address. All I'm trying to get is why, so everybody says, why are they doing it? Why are we trying to, what's the fascination? So I would just like to ask her, what made her think that she could go do that?
Members of the board, I object to any further questioning. This is a hearing for a challenge for the right to remain registered on the rolls. She has waived her right to remain registered on the rolls, and so for the scope of this hearing, I think any further questions are relevant.
I need to ask the board, and maybe Mr. Brown a question too, about removing Ms. Thomas from the, is there a form to fill out? Is there a document? I'm not sure what needs to be done. Actually, we dealt with this on another one. I think if you submit a statement.
I can take her, escort her right over to the office and just get her to write that very request on a piece of paper and sign it. And I believe that'll be sufficient to maybe put her current address on there. I'll double check that, but I feel like that would be okay.
Do we need to sustain her challenge as she has asked?
I honestly don't know what the proper way is right here. I mean, she's agreed to be removed. You know, if you want to delay on this one until I can consult with somebody, I mean, I honestly think it's done. It's toast. But if you want me to consult, I will consult.
So my only comment here, Mike, is during the last 4 challenges, if you remember, we had one young man that refused to answer any questions because he got bad advice.
Correct.
He come back the next day and apologized to the board.
Mr. Rivers, we've asked everyone to turn off all devices or they will be taken by the deputy.
I apologize for that. I turned it off, but I turned it back when I went for the break.
Do you mind turning it back off and let the deputy have it until you go out to lunch? Because that was our rule to start with. Sorry. We want to make sure we do this correctly. And I know that the other young man, he did come in the next day and we removed him from the roll.
Yeah, I mean, that case, I remember he basically took 50 minutes as I refused to testify.
Exactly. My point is this.
Yeah.
I want to make it on the record. Again, during the election, she stood before an elections official, swore that this was her address. So the fact that she's not answering any questions, I have a problem with it. Okay, so I withdraw the statement I made earlier
Which one?
about not going to the district attorney. Because, again, no less a person than Dr. Barber has stood up before the legislature and said, we have a very good policy in place where we won't have any problem with voter fraud. We have a signature certification and a 5-year penalty.
And that is hearsay, right? Since he's not here.
Let me turn this around for a minute, if you don't mind. And I don't know Ms. Barnett's schedule, but I will recommend, I truly feel my gut is if she goes over and removes herself from the voter roll right now, that moots this challenge. If I need to verify, see if there's anything else, you're asking it to be sustained, I understand that, and my gut is that it is a moot challenge at that point if she's no longer on the rolls. But I will be willing to look into it.
But she's currently on the rolls right now today.
That's correct.
Okay, so right now today is the hearing.
Correct, absolutely.
And the voter fraud portion of this is not a moot point.
Right.
But we are having a challenge hearing today involving Ms. Thomas. We can't go unring the bell, and you can't do something after the hearing to unring the bell. The case is before you right now.
Let me ask you this, if it, I'm sorry, Michelle, I mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, maybe we can just continue this one until you can look into it to make sure we are handling it correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind doing that. If you guys can stick around for a little bit, I don't know your schedule, and it goes for both of you. I think right now, if she wants to go over and remove her name, she's free to do so. My gut feeling, again, that moots it. And it's kind of a little bit of a dilemma for her because you originally asked that she not be referred, and now that's kind of back on the table is what you're saying.
Yes, because all I wanted was just to hear her line of thinking, so I would be educated. That's all I asked.
Right.
And her attorney has advised her not to say anything, and again, I think she's getting bad advice. Again, I think she's getting bad advice. Another person has somebody whispering in her ear,
But this
giving her bad
person
advice.
is an attorney that's talking to her, not just somebody on campus telling her what to
Okay.
do. But I would make the motion that we continue this until would that be correct
Yeah, I
motion? Until
think
Mr. Cox,
Oh,
Can
sure,
we-
sure, yeah.
we not act on this? Is that what we need to do?
I would recommend that that Ms. Thomas go with Ms. Barnett and Mr. Brown to go sign the statement, removing her. And then I would think by, in the next several hours, I can kind of get some verification that really moots it and this is over. If I'm wrong, then come back and we may have to have some hearing and evidence and, but I just, again, going on my gut feeling, it's over at that point.
Okay.
So I would ask the two of them to go with Mr. Brown to remove her name, and we will go on to the next person. And which order do you want to go, Mr.
I guess
Gilbert?
we'd start at the beginning and work back to the end.